One day, I fall into this sealed underground full of traps, treacherous paths, and human hunting monsters. Only the power of 7 human souls can free the monsters, and 6 humans have already been captured before me. This means I have to survive and defeat the enemy or risk becoming a sacrifice for them to invade our world. I search for traces of the humans who fell before me and luckily get guided by red and yellow. With one pushing me to do good, the other speaks to my evil side, but only one thing is clear. In the end, I will be judged and have a bad time. First of all, I realize Undertale Red and Yellow adds some new settings. Wait, is the text changing for a second? Are you seeing that? What does that say? Oh, it's saying hell. I decided to set the difficulty to normal and turn on all the fun events to experience many RNG-based encounters. Chat talked me into calling myself Nyumsy. Look at it shaking, just taunting me like, ha, you're a Nyumsy now. Then suddenly I find myself safe and sound on a soft flower bed. Oh yay, I'm back to being the Simpson again. I feel something weird in my head, then realize it's a conversation. After just a few steps, I can suddenly make out the yellow and red kids' voices. So I follow their instructions and walk through a gate where a friendly-looking flower waits for me. Flowey the flower teaches me about the red heart that represents my soul, which is weak right now, but can get stronger by gaining love. Kind enough to share some love with me, Flowey summons some friendliness pellets and fires them at me, but I dodge. Are you brain dead? Run into the bullets! Oh, bullets. A friendly friendliness pellets. Suddenly, Flowey drops this facade, accusing me of knowing exactly what's going on here, then blocks all paths with a circle of bullets that home in on me. Luckily, a fireball appears and flings the evil flower away, fired by a goat lady who introduces herself as Toriel, caretaker of the ruins, then even invites me to let her guide me through the catacombs. I follow her into the darkness, then reach a purple room. Flowey, what happened to him? Perhaps he's always been like that. But that can't be right. If he was, he wouldn't have. He called me as. He was lying, Clover. He was using you. For now, I follow Toriel, who solves a switch puzzle for me and explains that the ruins are filled with these ancient contraptions. Already in the next room, she explains that even more switches need to be flipped to proceed, but luckily she labeled them all for me. Don't press that, just in case. Good, that was an excellent detailed ad. I move on to a room with some kind of dummy where Toriel explains that monsters might attack me down here. So I approach the dummy and slash it, destroying the dummy with a single attack. Toriel explains that dummies are not for fighting. We do not want to hurt anybody, do we? Oh, I do. Come now. Either way, I keep following Toriel when suddenly a frog attacks me. So I quickly unalive the pesky monster before Toriel notices anything and even earn enough XP to increase my love. For the next puzzle, Toriel just takes my hand and guides me along the correct path to avoid the spikes. Now Toriel challenges me to a difficult task to walk to the end of the path all by myself. Not by myself! Whatever shall I do alone? Forgive me for this. No! Don't worry, partner. You have us by your side. Oh, that's right. I'm never alone. I have voices in my head. Luckily, with a new ability to run, the hallway is easily bested. Toriel then stops me, sneakily appearing from behind a pillar to approve of my independence. Confident that I can stay on my own for a while, she leaves me with a cell phone, then attends to some business. Of course, I call her right away and call her mom, then flirt with her aggressively. Then I don't listen to the goat lady and move forward. In the upper room, my naughtiness immediately gets rewarded with a piece of candy that I grab from a bowl with a note saying, take one. Naturally, I keep taking more than one, and on top of that, tip over the candy bowl. Look at what you've done. You should be ashamed of yourself. Nothing wrong with a little self-indulgence. Wait, you saying you want me to get fat? I leave to explore the other path and slaughter froggets on the way, then unalive the pitiful Whimsin too. Ribbit! Clover, what are you doing ribbiting in this chat? What a cry. What a sad creature. What is that supposed to mean, Kara? Are you trying to hide like how aggressive you are? I ended the lives of more and more monsters and kept moving around, waiting for more monsters to hunt, but nobody came. I proceed through the empty, now ominous sounding ruins, but the floor cracks under the weight of my dusty shoes, and I have to use the stairs to get to the other side. My killing spree gets interrupted by a call from an unsuspecting Toriel asking me if I prefer cinnamon or butterscotch. So I tell her cinnamon before pushing a rock on top of a switch to move on. The next room also has an unstable floor, and I fall through too. Please don't step on the leaves. Well, if the ceiling wasn't so fragile, I wouldn't step on the leaves. Didn't you read the sign downstairs? Yeah, well, I want to read the sign upstairs. I continue and see a ghost just disappear in front of me. The room to the right has some cobwebs with spiders doing a bake sale, but of course I don't support monster businesses with my hard-earned money and move on. I reach an area with a lot of cracked floor tiles to fall through, one leading to a room with a faded ribbon that I tie to my hair, while another leads to a switch that I flip to lower the floor spikes. After examining the room with several columns and colored switches, switches, I follow the instructions to flip the blue switch hidden behind one of the columns, then the red one, and finally the out of view green switch to make it through. The next corridor leads me to a balcony where I find a handy toy knife that I equip for stabbing monsters. After taking the only remaining path, I suddenly stand in front of a withered looking tree and hear Toriel's voice again, who tries to call me before realizing that I made my way here all on my own. Promising me a surprise, she invites me inside. Goat Mama spoils me with a butterscotch cinnamon pie, then wants to show me another surprise, but I start sneaking around in her house instead. After getting dragged out of the basement, I sweep her living room and kitchen. For some reason, there's a brand name chocolate bar in the fridge. Give it to me. How would I feed the voice in my head some chocolate? Surprisingly, her entire kitchen is kid-friendly. Where are the knives? Finally, I let Toriel show me my room, but search Toriel's room first, then confirm at the mirror that I'm a Nyumzi. Toriel then suggests having a nap until the pie is cooled down, so I go check all the kid stuff in my room before sleeping and eventually waking up to a piece of pie next to me. Of course, I immediately snatch the pie, then return to Toriel to listen to her rambling about her books. Since there's no way I can spend the rest of my days here, I ask when I can leave, but Toriel just deflects the question. So I keep pressing her until she leaves her chair to do something. Curious about her secrets, I follow her to the basement where she explains that the ruins exit lies ahead, but it's impossible to return after leaving, so I should stay back. I'll be a good child and go upstairs. No! Hey, you should do as she said. Do what you must. We're hardly in a position to stop you. Unimpressed by her commands, I keep following her, giving her a chance to explain how every single human that arrived in the ruins and left soon died due to Asgore. After her final warning to stop me, she orders me to prove to her that I'm strong enough to defend myself. Toriel demonstrates the power of monsters by attacking me with fireballs, but without hesitation, I pull my knife to slash the goat lady, ripping her apart in a single strike. Realizing that it was not me she was protecting, but the monsters outside, Toriel turns to dust and her fading soul swiftly breaks. With one less monster in my way, I can take the exit when suddenly Clover gets really upset with me. I won't forgive you if you keep going with whatever this is. Your actions will have consequences. Of that, I am sure. On top of that, I run into Flowey. You're not really human, are you? No, you're empty inside. Just like me. In fact, surprisingly, he lets me in on his plan to become all-powerful, even more powerful than myself, to destroy everything in this world. Let's turn them all to dust.
That's a wonderful idea.
What? That's a wonderful idea. What was that? And with that, I make it out of the ruins and reach a snowy area. I immediately spot a camera hidden in a bush, then follow the wintry path. When suddenly a branch behind me breaks as if someone stepped on it. Then even a spooky shadow appears for a short moment, and just when I reach a wooden bridge, that figure approaches me. He eerily whispers in my ear to greet him, so I turn around to reach for his hand, falling into his trap and squeezing his whoopee cushion. Of course, I'm not amused, showing no emotion at all. He still introduces himself as Sans and explains that he doesn't really care about his job to hunt humans, unlike his brother Papyrus. Unfortunately, Papyrus waits just ahead, so Sans suggests hiding behind a conveniently shaped lamp. Of course, I have zero intention to avoid confrontation and hide from a filthy monster like that. Sans, have you found a human yet? Yeah. Really? Wowie! Guess that's settled. That worked out, huh? Yeah, I guess it did. Finally, Sans suggests that I should please keep pretending to be a human for his brother's sake, then walks off too. So I make my way through the snowy forest, then save where Kara conveniently tells me how many monsters are still hiding from me. 16 left. Right next to it, I also find a box that lets me conveniently store my items, so I put my old gear and Toriel's pie inside. Surprisingly, I find a tough glove already in there that I equip to replace my knife. Despite my killing spree in the ruins, a snowdrake dares to attack me, but I easily dodge its projectiles and smash it until it turns to dust. Next, I amuse myself with a lesser dog for a while before I decide to stop toying with my prey and smack it too. The road leads me to the Skeleton Brothers with Papyrus impatiently awaiting the arrival of a human until Sans blatantly points me out. But Papyrus still can't figure out what I am, though since I'm not a rock, he figures I must be a human. He then immediately threatens me with puzzles and other shenanigans before walking off to the right. Of course, I follow them when when suddenly some nerd calls me and tries to order a pizza. I try to forget about the sus things this nerd just sent me, then get back on the path. Suddenly, an ice cap dares to attack me and even insults my hatless head. So I steal his hat, turning the ice cap into a melty ice cube that I can easily crush. In the next area, I find a sign that forbids all moving, but I move anyway, and a dog pops up from beneath a counter, wondering who's there because it can only see moving things. However, my murderous presence alone causes it to shiver, so the doggo immediately jumps in my way. His blue knife attacks just phase through me as long as I stand still, yet my attacks deal tons of damage to it, freeing the area of yet another dog monster. So I move on to try and find more things to unalive and take a path leading up to discover a snowman near a cliff. Without listening to what it has to say, I rip a piece of it out, and even as it starts wondering what I'm doing, I keep picking piece after piece until only a useless pile of snow is left. Snowman piece heals 45 HP! Please take this to the ends of the earth. I'm gonna take it to the ends of my belly. I go back to the crossroad and this time take the right path where I discover Sans and Papyrus in a heated argument. With my urge to fight, I move towards them and don't even waste time to hear Papyrus' stupid puzzle explanation out. Soon he realizes that his puzzles are wasted on me and he runs off in frustration. Sans mentions that it would make Papyrus happy if I played along, but of course that's meaningless to me, so I simply move on, toying with a snowball on the way. Annoyingly, the skeletons block my way again, this time with a puzzle that Sans was supposed to prepare, but it's just some piece of paper on the ground. After walking towards them without even glancing at the silly puzzle, Papyrus gets really mad that it didn't do anything and runs off. Then I check out a note left by Papyrus claiming that the nearby plate of pasta is his ultimate trap to keep me from progressing. The pasta is frozen though and the microwave unplugged, so I just move to the next area. Luckily, I don't have to deal with the puzzles here as they miraculously are already solved. There's a switch here. It's been depressed with vines. Flowey is helping me progress. So I cross a bridge where suddenly two executioner dogs are approaching me to check out my smell. The Dogami and Dogoressa try to slice my soul by swinging their axes, so I try to squeeze into the spaces underneath to dodge. Mercifully, I slash the waifu first while dodging the love they're sending each other. Finally, the dog waifu is slain, and only the broken-hearted husband remains who whimpers and whines until I put him out of his misery too, earning me XP to increase my love even more. With all the puzzles already taken care of, I just keep walking until I find the skeletons again. But before I have to sit through another puzzle explanation, I keep walking, now even causing Papyrus to ask Sans for help with my attitude. Totally frustrated, Papyrus leaves me with Sans again, and I follow close behind. You've been quiet for a while. Oh, Clover's not talking. I see. Near another sentry station, I save, learning that merely 13 are left to unalive. Without hesitation, I follow the path along some dense trees, then walk down a slope to reach a cliff with eyes watching me through the walls. Though I still don't slow down on my mission. I smack the gift rod that takes it pretty well, but after dodging its dripping water attacks, I eventually take it out anyway. By the end of the cliff, I find a cave entrance and a gray fox monster next to it who shiveringly asks if anybody's there. After complaining about the cold, the monster suddenly disappears. What just happened? He went poof! Next, I check out the cave, but there's a strange door with no way of getting through, so I impatiently run in circles until suddenly a weird monster called Glide swoops in. It immediately showers me in sparkling explosions from its tail, so I boo him, but the hate just makes him stronger, giving him a bonus to attack while reducing his defense. Before Glide gets even more full of himself, I start smacking him, dealing decent damage, so I rinse and repeat until he dies, earning me 100 XP and 140 gold. Finally, I get to leave the cave and return to the path where I find a bunch of snow puffs, but one of them turns out to be a sneakily hidden monster. The greater dog doesn't escape my wrath, but just inches closer and closer while harassing me with his spear. Before he gets too chummy, I smack him back to his place, then unalive him without issues. I backtrack to make sure no filthy monster stays alive in the area until suddenly I discover a chilldrake. The rebellious brother of the snowdrake attacks me with the same kind of projectile, but unlike the comedian, seems to be against everything. Since I'm against its existence, I make sure to unalive it, then finally manage to bring the local monsters to extinction, earning the satisfaction of hearing "but nobody came" again, and the atmosphere changing to beautiful emptiness. Finally, I make it over the final bridge where once again, Papyrus waits for me, threatening me with weapons, each deadlier than the other. But instead of unaliving me right there, he only looks for excuses, clearly not having the guts to actually murder. Once again, he pathetically retreats, leaving me alone with Sans, whose attitude completely changes as he tells me that if I keep going down this path, I'm gonna have a bad time. And just like that, Sans disappears, so I make my way to the nearby town, Snowden, and save. Here I find a shop, but it's completely abandoned, so I take all the stuff for free and steal all the gold from the counter. water. I find a note saying to please not hurt their family, but I just leave unimpressed and equip the stolen bandana. Next door is the inn, and I check inside. There's someone here. Everybody in the town evacuated, it seems, but not you. It's merely a decoy. Aw, dang it. I wanted to murder. So I head deeper into Snowden and discover a Christmas tree with a monster kid completely on their own. The kid seems to not worry the slightest bit about the murdering human going around and has a lot of faith in a monster called Undyne. Checking the town yields no results, so I leave to the right where suddenly the air gets icy enough to block the view. But then Papyrus calls out to me, announcing my weirdness for not liking puzzles and having hands covered in dust. He promises to help me become a great person, but I just creepily move towards him. Then he even offers his friendship and a hug, but with every step I make towards him, my murderous intent gets stronger. Inevitably, the battle starts, but Papyrus immediately is sparing me. Since he's not even trying to fight me, I just take the easy kill and smash his head right off. Even as his body turns to dust, his skull tells me that he believes in me, convinced that I can do better. After listening to Clover's judgmental nagging, I reach a waterfall area, but immediately get stopped by a threat from Clover. Here I meet the monster kid again who snuck out to look for this Undyne. Next, I check out the blue flower, but it's just silent, then save and learn from Kara that 18 monsters are left to hunt. To proceed, I cross a few bridges along a waterfall and discover another blue flower that plays back someone's voice mentioning a secret behind the waterfall. So I make my way there and indeed find a secret cave with someone's tutu on the ground. Of course, I equip the fancy tutu, adding a cute look to my murderous vibes, then make my way across the water. Luckily, I can hide in some tall grass here as a knight approaches and even aims their spear at me. Avoiding the impalement, I manage to get away and suddenly realize that the monster kid has been hiding in the same grass. The kid is super excited how Undyne looked at me, but has no idea that they're hunting me. Lucky. She might find us again. Get ready to run at a moment's notice. Next, I cross a flower bridge, then reach a new area where out of nowhere, a seahorse monster called Aaron flexes at me. He seems to have no problem with me checking him out, then drips his sweat all over me, but luckily I can avoid getting drenched by his moist body. Believes he is stronger than you. Prove him wrong. Oh, with pleasure. Shoot! You tell Aaron to go away. Feisty, huh? Ugh, stop trying to sweat on me, it's gross! So I smash him twice, which is enough to turn him into dust. The puzzles on the way seem already cleared, so I use the flowers to build a bridge leading to the right where I discover a dead end with a bench and a quiche underneath, which I take with me as free nyumsies. Next, I make my way back and this time cross the bridge to reach a dark corridor with lots of blue flowers. A pitiful Washua attacks me, dropping a bar of soap at me, but my dusty hands aren't cleaned so easily. After soaking myself in a few of its green drops to heal myself, I punch it until it's unalive. I continue to find a telescope that I look through, spotting some writing that tells me to check the upper wall. So I make my way there and enter a doorway with a boardwalk reaching across the shallow water. Here, the history of humans and monsters is inscribed, but I don't let it distract me from my mission and write a board to take me across the river and reach another boardwalk. Then suddenly a spear just barely misses me as the soldier starts chasing after me while trying to impale me. I just barely avoid their thrusts and save myself into some high grass, but they don't give up and even follow me there. Just when I thought they had caught me, they pick up the monster kid next to me. The kid seemed even more excited after getting touched by Undyne and feels bad for me for just barely avoiding their grip. Moving on, I find some cheese, but it's stuck to the table by some kind of pink crystal. But the next corridor holds a surprise as a strange gray door is on the wall, and inside I find an ominous, scary figure. When I get close to him, he just vanishes, and after I leave, the door just disappears. Next, I reach another telescope and enter an empty cave with a list of ice cream flavors scribbled on the wall. The area here is surrounded by blue glowing water, and since I can't make my way over, I move down across some bridges. A pair of moldsmal attacks me, but I answer their seductive wiggling with violence. After smashing them, I follow the path to reach a dead end, but inside a patch of grass, I find some ballet shoes. Those turn out to be a weapon, so I equip them to go with my tutu. And with that, I keep going right, then try out my ballet shoes on a Washua and realize that I can now attack 3 times. That easily takes care of the Washua and increases my love. From there, I cross another bridge into another cave where Shiren is brave enough to face me. She sings some mellow tune, so I start singing a duet with her before ending it with a deadly deadly finale. First, I take the right path and discover a statue that's being rained on. I go further to the right to find a bin full of umbrellas and give one to the statue, which causes a music box to start playing a tune that Kara immediately recognizes. Notes start appearing above, so I go back and try the upper path where I find a piano that I can play the notes on, which reveals a new path. Inside, I discover a mysterious red orb, but I can't take it because I'm carrying too many dogs. With the annoying dog filling my inventory, I decide to drop it. You put the dog on the ground. No, 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 no. The dog absorbs it. Come on, I'm Genocide! Why can't I do something about this? No! Dog! Get back here! Without the cool artifact, I move on, reaching a rainy path and staring at the rain puddles, realizing the strange reflections they're giving me. For some reason, the monster kid decides to follow me, and the reflections start getting even stranger. The kid keeps admiring Undyne and how she beats up bad guys, then fantasizes about her coming to school to beat up the teachers. As we follow the path, the castle appears in the distance, but soon a ledge blocks my way. Luckily, I can step on the monster kid's head to climb up while the kid is running off to look for another path. Meanwhile, I reach another boardwalk where out of nowhere, spears now try to impale me from below. I start running, but they keep blocking my path, eventually cutting me off and hitting me. I got impaled! Finding my way across the boardwalk labyrinth gets extremely hard as the spears start thrusting faster and faster. I don't know where to go, I don't know where to go, I don't know where to go. Holy crap! Until I finally make it over. Sadly, I reach a dead end, and now Undyne catches up to me, cutting off the planks I'm standing on and immediately causing me to drift away. Everything turns to black as I somehow hear a familiar voice of someone checking on me. Here, get up. Yums. This is supposed to be a wholesome moment! How dare you call me Yumsy! After the memory fades away, I once again wake up on a bed of yellow flowers. You should be dead right now. Well, too bad, so sad. I'm not dead. Surrounded by piles of garbage that seem to accumulate at the bottom of the waterfall, I get out of there as quickly as possible, but only find more garbage. Luckily, I find some food in a cooler, which turns out to be an astronaut bar. Even though there are no monsters around, I can practice my punches on a dummy before leaving it. But suddenly, the dummy springs to life. It looks really angry as it blocks my path. He explains that my actions caused his ghost dummy cousin to leave his home, then gets really riled up over my brutality. Completely out of nowhere, his mood shifts again, explaining that his unhinged emotions allowed his ghost form to fuse with the dummy, fulfilling his dream of becoming corporeal. Promising not to stomp me, the now content dummy decides to spare me. After it thanks me, I betray the dummy, kicking it before there's nothing left but dust, which earns me nothing but satisfaction. Finally, I get back on land with several paths to choose, leading me to a bunch of locked or abandoned monster houses. Only going right leads to a new path, and first of all, I check a cave entrance that I explore, surprisingly finding a turtle guy inside who apparently was brave enough not to evacuate. Surprised that I even bother to chat with him, he reveals that he's strangely aware of my murderous actions and even realizes that I'm unable to kill him while he's in that cave. I try to provoke him to fight me, but he has no interest in that, happy enough to buy some time for the others to escape. Frustrated, I have no choice but to leave him be and get back on my path, reaching a waterfall area where suddenly a weird enemy called Teme approaches me. She attacks by walking all over me and extending her paw all over, trying to glomp me. Before I have to endure this weirdness any longer, I quickly kick her in the face with my ballet shoes, making sure to leave nothing but Teme dust. Soon after, more mold small attack me, but one of them seems different. Soon I learn why, as something weird comes out of the slime. Luckily, I managed to avoid getting sucked by the weird creature and unalive it before it can do any bads. The next area seems to be some kind of strange garden with a path that's only visible thanks to some glowing grass. One way leads me down into a strange village with a picture of Teme riding a dragon. There are even 10 statues and Teme watching from the wall, and an unsettling Teme shop is still open. Conversation with Teme proves to be difficult, so I leave for now and return to the labyrinth where monsters still dare to attack me. After turning one after the other to dust, finally I get rewarded with a satisfactory but nobody came. With that, I decide to trade with Teme after all and start bartering with her over a stick where she says she needs the money for college. Knowing that, I sell the stick for a crazy amount of 190 gold, then a bandage for 150, demolishing Teme's college funds. With that money, I buy the cloudy glasses and torn notebook from Turtle Guy and equip them. With the glasses, I look like some kind of nerd, but I decide to keep them anyway. Finally, I make my way through the labyrinth, then reach a part where some dark crystals light up the area for me to navigate. Yet the next corridor is completely dark, and without realizing, I navigate into a dead end with only a blue flower that whispers, "Behind you." Suddenly, I notice that Undyne snuck up on me and comes closer while explaining that 7 human souls are necessary to turn Asgore into a god to shatter the barrier and take the surface back from the humans. Offering redemption by sacrificing my soul, she pulls her spear and charges at me when suddenly the monster kid jumps between us to help Undyne fight. The monster kid seems unaware of who Undyne is actually fighting, but before anything happens, they drag the kid off. Luckily, an escape path appears and I follow it, reaching a corridor overgrown by silent blue flowers, but then I hear a different voice. An enemy is near. For the first time in a while, I reach a dry area, and just before crossing a bridge, the monster kid stops me again. Explaining that Undyne told them the truth about me, the kid seems unable to believe such a horrible story. Slowly, I approach the monster kid with murderous intent in my eyes, and although it's clearly frightened to death, the kid decides to face me to save the others. To me, it's nothing but free XP, so I crush it with my torn notebook like an ant. But out of nowhere, Undyne jumps in the way, taking the fatal hit, while the silly monster kid stands in shock and immediately realizes that Undyne is hurt. But she shrugs it off, then sends the kid away, promising to take care of this. Shaking, clearly turning to dust already, Undyne assures herself that my fatal hit is nothing to her and recalls the memory of her precious friends as she disintegrates. Except her body suddenly materializes again. Something deep in her soul stirs, not allowing her to die as she realizes that this fight is about more than the hopes of monsters, but the lives of everyone. For the sake of the whole world, I, Undyne, will strike you down! She then transforms into an even stronger looking version of herself. I realize that she's found her own determination to become undying, and immediately spears start homing in on me that I can only block by facing right at them. While changing my direction, I avoid impalement for now, then smack her with my book, dealing little damage to her undying form. Soon, she even slashes me with her spear, then summons homing spears. Cornered into a tiny box, one of her spears suddenly strikes me. Holy, that damage! What? Clearly, I won't survive another hit, so I stuff my face with a cinnamon bunny to heal. In a desperate attempt to survive, I chip away at her health, but soon I survive a relentless assault only by sheer luck with a single HP before completely getting crushed. After watching my soul break, I hang on by relying on my own determination, then switch back to my trusty tutu and ballet shoes to jump right back into the fight. With the superior damage of the shoes, I still struggle to survive the impalement, dying over and over and over. Finally, I managed to get an extremely good attempt where I bring her to half health without taking a single hit. Suddenly, Undyne unleashes her ultimate attack, chasing me around with her spears while I'm holding on with considerable damage. But she still survives another hit, forcing me to endure another terrifying wave of spear attacks, but I miraculously survive with 1 HP and deliver the final blow to her. Still holding on to her hopes, Undyne believes in her friends to save the world in her stead, while her body slowly melts from the determination and soon turns into dust. Finally, I can get back on my killing spree, and at least Kara acknowledges my win. Monsterkind Zenith is eliminated. After saving my progress, I enter another cave and follow a long bridge, reaching a switched off sign that only says welcome to. Arriving in a volcano, I immediately get vibes of emptiness as everything looks abandoned and just pour myself a cup of water at a water cooler. I reach a crossroad where my water just evaporates and learn from Kara that I have to annihilate a whopping 40 monsters here. To the right, I reach some kind of lab and can admire my yumsiness on a giant TV screen. Next to it, I search through a messy desk with piles of ramen bowls and some kind of figurine of a female human with cat ears. Then I notice a suspicious hole in the wall and a robot with a microphone who immediately insults me, explaining that Alphys already left and is currently evacuating everyone to safety. Tired of its crap, I step closer, but the robot decides to save itself by swiftly rolling away. Meanwhile, I steal some of the instant ramen, then check upstairs, but only find a bunch of books, some kind of pink goop machine, massive anime posters, and a staple of unopened letters from monsters. With that, I take the other exit and follow a path that leads me to a bunch of conveyor belts. While riding along, a Vulcan strolls in and attacks me. You tell Vulcan that his rump looks like a sack of trash. Oh, jeez. Trash, rump, Shortly after, I end their sadness by turning them to dust. Even more conveyors lead me to an area that's flooded with lava, and a tsundere plane happens to fly around. Getting closer makes it heal me, but I still strike the blushing tsundere plane, blowing it to bits. To proceed, I need to use some steam vents that allow me to jump far enough and make it over the lava. This way, I can soon reach a discarded frying pan and pick it up to use as my new weapon. While looking for a way out, a pyro bounces tosses in my way and attacks with spicy cookies and burning ropes. I can only make it through the orange flames by moving through without stopping, then have my revenge and unalive the fire monster. It turns out that the correct path leads up and along some luckily deactivated lasers, but after making it through a gate, 2 Black Knights block my path. Upon seeing me, they immediately realize what happened to Undyne and start a fight. As I witness their team attack, I immediately notice the sus vibes coming from the rabbit and dragon knights, so I rub the dragon's armor clean until he takes it off, setting their unplatonic bromance in motion. But just when they were ready to confess their love, I slay the dragon with a single attack and toy with the rabbit knight until I'm ready to reunite him with his lover. With 2 more monsters turned to dust, I proceed by jumping across more vents until I reach some kind of kitchen. After checking for monsters that might be hiding from me here, I make it across a bridge and reach an elevator. I ride it to check several levels, but most paths are blocked by electricity. The only open way I find is on floor L3, leading me to a path covered in cobwebs and baked goods on a table. But the prices for spider donuts or spider cider are outrageous, so I move on, reaching a maze of steam vents that I need to jump. After navigating across, I reach an area with more cobwebs and even some tiny spiders hanging from the ceiling that start spreading rumors about my misdeeds. Somehow, I get stuck in all the cobwebs on the floor and a spider monster appears in the darkness next to me. She calls me too rotten even to eat, then attacks me holding cups and teapots. I immediately notice that my money is shown during the battle, and after pouring tea all over me, my soul turns purple. I can only move along the strings of her web to dodge the tiny spiders that attack me, then smash her with my pan to deal good damage. After taking a few hits, Muffet summons her cupcake pet trying to turn me into Nyumsies. While taking hit after hit, Muffet explains that Alphys offered her a way to escape and that she'd block off all of Hotland after she followed her, but according to Muffet, a spider never leaves her web. Suddenly, a tiny spider comes along, passing on a note to let her know that despite my killing spree, I never hurt a spider. Now that she suddenly wants to spare me, I punish her weakness, smothering her dust against the web so she never has to leave it ever again. While watching a spider carry a flower to Muffet's remains, I finally can leave the webs and enter the next area. I reach what seems to be some kind of theater stage, but with no one around, I just take the exit and follow the path right to reach the R3 level elevator. Somehow, a mysterious new level is now available, and selecting it takes me on what seems to be the longest elevator ride ever. Wondering about the strange area, Kara suddenly interrupts me, but I proceed anyway and first find a chute, then some kind of machine room with lots of lava glowing. The path leads me over what appears to be a factory walkway, and I make a quick stop at a broken vending machine before exploring deeper, discovering some kind of computer and another smaller TV screen, but it's out of order. Unfortunately, this seems to be a dead end as nothing seems to be working, so I return to the elevator and ride back to level R3, but this time I take the path up. Now I stand in front of some kind of hotel, but a note unsuspiciously guides me to a back alley promising some deals. Since some monsters might still be lurking there, I make my way over. But like, nobody came and stuff. I love how it maintained their personalities, even though it's the but nobody came. All I can find is 5 gold and a mysterious key to steal. It turns out though that the owners left me a note, only to say that Alphys came to evacuate them somewhere safe and to call me a loser. After making space by eating some cinnamon buns, I steal a wild revolver and a cowboy hat, which gives a boost to my attack. I equip both, then leave to admire my new look. With that, I finally enter the building where a weird fountain of Alphys's robots spills water on the floor. While exploring the abandoned lobby and restaurant, I get judged by a potted plant, then enter a place with an MTT burger sign. I'm surprised to find the fast food place is still staffed, so just for fun, I check out the menu, but the food prices seem really high. Although the vendor pretends to not care about the evacuation, it seems he's too scared of Mettaton's management style. Sorry, little weirdo. Threats won't work on me. I can't go to hell. I'm all out of vacation days. Thirsty for dust, I check the elevator and all the hotel rooms, but can't get inside and only find a sign hidden in the dark concerning some kind of art class on the 2nd floor. Instead of wasting my time with that, I take the only remaining door to see what appears to be the core and cross a bridge to enter inside. Now in an area with computer panels and circuits, I first explore the left path leading me over bridges and into corridors that all look empty. One screen lets me know about the different paths, but since it's all abandoned, I make my way towards the end. On the way, a shadowy figure comes out of nowhere and attacks me. A Whimsalot and Final Frogget try to intercept my killing spree by attacking me with swarms of insects, but I'm just happy to be able to try out my gun. I finish off the Final Frogget too, but shortly after, another shadow attacks, this time revealing mercenaries, a Night Knight, and Mad Jack. I pistol whip the magician first, then dodge a barrage of magical attacks before taking on the knight, who tries to smack me with his big club before finally turning to dust. Next, an Astigmatism attacks with a Final Frogget and Whimsalot, but a few well-aimed hits deal tons of damage, taking them out quickly. Still thirsty for dust, I try to find more, but nobody came. So I make my way through a doorway and suddenly find Metaton in my way again. Just like Undyne, he comes to the conclusion that I'm a threat to both monsters and humanity, and as a star, he won't just let me unalive his entire audience. Now he reveals that he was originally built as a human eradication robot, and as such, now assumes his true form. In his pathetic new form, Metaton Neo is no match for my desire to unalive him, exploding the useless robot with a single hit. Finally, I'm able to leave the area and make my way over to an elevator that now takes me to a completely colorless area. I follow the gray brick walls to another elevator that I can't use, then turn right where I suddenly get a view of the city beyond. A bridge leads me to a house that immediately reminds me of Toriel's place in the ruins, and even inside it looks just the same. However, a chain blocks the way to the basement, and luckily Kara lets me know where the keys are hidden. The living room looks like Toriel's too, but I don't find anything useful here. Then out of nowhere, Flowey appears. Howdy, Nyumsy. I'm gonna make you regret calling me Nyumsies, Flowey, I'm not Nyumsies! For some reason, he calls this place home and even asks me if I remember playing here together. Wow, you seem kinda cute when you're not a bloodthirsty killer. Today's gonna be just as fun. Never mind, I take it back. There's a green key in the kitchen, but the fridge seems empty. No chocolate. There's also a note that apparently I've read before, but since I have no recollection of that, I just take the key and leave. In the living room, Flowey shows up again, telling me how he woke up in the garden as a flower one day, but nobody came when he cried out for help. Next, I check the bedrooms with his bed, our clothes, Kara's drawing, and another bed inside. There are 2 gift boxes too, one containing a heart-shaped locket, an armor with a defense of 99 that I can feel beating as I equip it, putting it where it belongs. The other box has a knife, a real one with an attack power of 99 that I now use as a weapon, then head outside to check out my new outfit. Flowey stops me again, continuing his story, how the king eventually found him crying in the garden and how he comforted him after hearing what had happened. But for some reason, Flowey was unable to feel anything. Wondering about his words, I take the second key, then explore the last room, but only find a diary and other junk inside. One more time, I confirm in the mirror that I'm Nyumsy, but with both keys in my possession, I can now unlock the chain. I unlocked the chain. No, you didn't. You're the voice in my head. What do you mean you unlocked the chain? Confused about the red voice and who's in control here, I enter the basement and get interrupted by Flowey again. After realizing his compassion had gone, he spent weeks with Asgore trying to feel anything, so he ran all the way to the ruins where he found Toriel. After realizing that even she couldn't make him feel whole again, he lost all hope, not seeing a point in a life without love. So he decided to remove himself from this world, but in finding determination, he managed to just reappear in the garden, his save point. For a while, he used his power for good, becoming friends with everyone and helping them out, but after he realized there was nothing new for him to experience, he experimented with bad acts. Killing made him feel liberated after all this time, and at least he had the guts to do it. Those pathetic people that want to see it, but are too weak to do it themselves. Chad, I think Flowey's calling you out! I bet someone like that's watching right now. But now he grew tired, even of that, after having done everything there's to do, but me showing up was unpredictable for him. At first, he didn't recognize me and thought I was some kid whose soul he could steal and mess with, but had to learn that using his determination to reload stopped working because of my stronger determination. While I'm following the path, Flowey finally asks me how I got back to the ruins and figures Toriel took me with her when she left to bury me properly. But either way, he now is just tired of everything and asks me to finish what we started, seemingly thinking we're here to free everyone, then living together at the surface. So he wants me to do what he couldn't and get the king to reveal the human souls to me. But suddenly he realizes that I really understand him and his kill-or-be-killed ways, and that realization makes him shudder. Seems like my presence can make him feel something after all, even if it's just fear. But as he's now squirming before me, he nudges me to turn around. Stop making that creepy face! This isn't funny! You've got a sick sense of humor! While ignoring his whining, I follow the path down around where I now reach a corridor flooded with warm light. With only my shadow visible, I make my way along the columns, but instead of Flowey, this time someone else stops me. Sans greets me casually and asks if I think that even the worst person can change. Instead of answering, I just step forward, but then he asks another question, "Do you want to have a bad time?" and threatens me if I take one more step forward. Of course I won't be intimidated, causing Sans to apologize to the old lady for breaking a promise. It's a beautiful day outside. Birds are singing, flowers are blooming. On days like these, kids like you should be burning in hell. Not knowing what I'm in for, the eyeless Sans merely lifts his arm to summon an attack unlike anything I've seen before, splitting my soul in two. Back before Sans, I brace myself for the insane upcoming attack. Somehow, this time I survive the assault, while Sans cleverly explains his strategy of using his strongest attack first. Now I really feel like I'm going to have a bad time and munch on some dry instant noodles to fully heal. But Sans immediately attacks again, and without perfect timing, I smack against his hard bone again and again. With no room to attack, I shove down a stake while the purple health bar keeps draining. To my surprise, the purple seems to allow me to soak up damage without fully dying while it ticks, but still keeps damaging me after eating Toriel's pie. Finally, I have time to check. Sans one attack, one defense. Excuse me? The easiest enemy. There's nothing easy about this! Can only deal one damage. What? Maybe one damage 1,000 times a second? Next, he launches an attack that I can manage well, with bones covering the entire floor, requiring me to jump from platform to platform. So this time, I get to slash Sans with my real knife, but miss. After shrugging and winking at me, Sans jokingly explains that he won't just stand there and take it. So all I could do is keep jumping the platforms and try to just get lucky one time. While we're fighting, Sans mentions reports that show some kind of anomaly with the timelines, as if the monsters were somehow able to notice me using my determination. But his attacks now get more intense again, making the platforming almost impossible to handle and causing me to bleed more and more HP. While the purple almost goes to zero, I eat a legendary hero only to fall on the bones again right away. Shoving down more and more food, I get lasered with his blaster attacks while relying on platforms to try and avoid them. While my attacks do nothing, I slowly start running out of yumsies, then Sans blatantly calls me out for causing these weird timeline anomalies. Finally, there are signs of Sans dodging slower, but his attacks are still relentless as ever. After I numb my last food, Sans explains that he gave up on making it back a long time ago. I eventually get smashed by his bone and have to restart. On my next attempt, Sans lets me know that he clearly keeps track of my failures. That's the expression of someone who's died twice in a row. Heck you! At least I can come back. You can't come back. Just you wait. I'm gonna win. While I wait for him to finish his usual speech, he suddenly cuts it short and hits me hard with his dirty tactics, then almost unalives me instantly. Luckily, I survive with some purple HP that drains down to 6 HP, so I immediately crunch on my instant ramen to heal. Slowly, I'm able to learn his attack patterns, getting better and better at dodging his hard bones. And even though his attacks are the toughest thing I've dealt with so far, he still says it's hard to give it his all, but my actions make it impossible for him to not care anymore. Unlike him, I give it my all, swinging my knife around, which gets his bones all sweaty. All of a sudden, he tries to call my good side, seeing in me someone who might even have been a friend in a different timeline, begging me to remember who I am and drop my weapon. With his soft side exposed, I shamelessly accept, so maybe I could just backstab him instead of dealing with this fight. But just when I make peace and lean in for the hug, I suddenly feel his bone punish me hard. Hey, what the? Get dunked on. Sans! You suck! He put me in a bone prison! He boned me! Fueled by my thirst for revenge, I run back to him right away, but now Sans counts 3 deaths. Another tough battle unfolds, but this time I don't fall for his peace offering and use his attempt to spare me by trying to stab him instead. Apparently knowing what we talked about in the previous attempts, he asks if he got me, but since I came back, he also figured that we never truly were friends. Thinking that I have to be close to winning, Sans crushes my hopes by flashing from attack to attack, giving me almost no time to react to the various attacks he teleports me to. Miraculously, I survive, but now a bone bounces in the text box, damaging me as I try to move to that area to launch an attack at Sans. And still, Sans admits that he kind of hoped we could be friends after all. He fires laser after laser after laser at me, and even when I try to heal, his cheating bone hurts me. On top of all this, now I see his bones poke against the action menu from below. Next, he suggests that someday I'll have to learn when to quit, and with just 1 HP left, he figures that day's today. After I run straight back to Sans, he still counts my deaths, conveniently having one for each finger on my hand now, but threatens me that soon I'll have to grow a few more to keep up. With how determined I am, it forces Sans to ready a special attack. He throws me around and gets me to squeeze between his bones before he circles me with blasters rotating their fire that suddenly burns my soul to a crisp. Despite everything, I stay determined and challenge him for the 8th time, only to get blown to bits by his ultimate attack again and again. Soon dragging myself to even just return, he mocks my 10th death and wants to invite all my friends to celebrate the first double-digit number, except he figures I have no friends to invite anyway. With my rage burning inside, I make it through attack after attack until miraculously I manage to survive his massive ultimate, only to get slammed from wall to wall. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I can't do anything, he's killing me, dude! Somehow I managed to survive with my last HP and realize Sans slowly runs out of power as my soul sinks to the bottom and turns back to red. Completely out of breath, he finally readies his true special attack and I brace myself for whatever he may do to me next, except I realize he just trapped me in an empty void with nothing to do, and the only reaction I notice is him teleporting me back when I hit the left side of the box. So he explains that he knows he can't beat me, so he'll just keep me from ending the fight forever. You dirty cheater! He's locking us in a stalemate! That way he wants to force me to give up, even if it means standing here until the end of time. Counting on me to get bored, he insists there's no point in persevering whatsoever and suggests just doing literally anything else. So I sit there and think, trying to find a better plan until I notice him slowly closing his eyes as his exhaustion eventually gets the better of him and he dozes off. In this state, by bumping against the wall, I can slowly push my box, sneakily moving it onto the fight button. Oh! Get him! What? Did you really? I swung twice. Still with a smile on his face, he holds his chest, reminding me that I shouldn't say he didn't warn me. Unsure what he means by that, I watch him wander off to Grillby's, but with his wound, there's no way he survives, vanishing off screen and rewarding me with a love of 20. Still sore from that fight, I can finally reach the end of the corridor and stand before the throne room. But first, I make a turn to check out the basement, realizing it's filled with coffins with different colored souls on them and Kara commenting on them. It's as comfortable as it looks. Determined to finish this, I enter the throne room, which turns out to be overgrown with foliage and flowers, and Asgore now standing right in front of me. Wondering about a crying flower he just saw, he turns around to face me, realizing that I'm the one the flower warned him about. Despite that, he greets me with a howdy, but doesn't even recognize me as a human anymore. But after coming this far, I hesitate not for another minute and attack, bringing him straight down to his knees. Then suddenly, I see him surrounded by friendliness pellets that home in to turn him to dust and even pulverize his soul. A very scared looking Flowey then shows up, who after his betrayal tries to prove his loyalty to me by unaliving the king for me. Desperately promising that he can be useful to me, he suddenly starts whimpering, begging me not to kill him. But suddenly a crosshair aims at my soul while Flowey ducks away as a shot randomly takes half my HP. Before I realize what's going on, Clover appears with a howdy. Of course, I wonder how he managed to get here, but Clover explains it's my fault as my rampage revived him, even implying he warned me. But he figures I don't care about him. In fact, I don't care about anyone because I just need to know what happens, not caring about what happens to the pawns in this sick game. With his soul exposed, he warns me that if I don't make this right, this will happen again. Suddenly, his yellow soul starts radiating and unable to move, I just stand there as a massive energy beam hits me, immediately melting my HP, then even crashing my game, and just like that, kicking my butt out of this world. But not only that, upon trying to return, I realize that my save file is gone, leaving me only one choice, starting over fresh and trying to do better. So instead of giving up, I make my way through the underground once more, leaving only dust behind until I beat Sans and face Clover again. After doing all this for a second time, he figures I have to be more than just a thrill seeker. But before he annihilates me with his laser again, I slash him with my knife and watch as Clover falls to his knees. Then suddenly Kara appears to thank me for awakening them from death. Realizing the purpose of their resurrection, power, Kara figures that after eradicating the enemy, our stats have reached their limit, so they invite me to use our power and erase this world and move on to the next one. But I decide to not erase the world, which only seems to confuse Kara, asking, since when were you the one in control? I freak out completely as Kara jump scares me, rearranging my screen like some kind of glitch, then slashing at me before leaving 9s all over my screen. After resetting the game, I load back in, but everything stays just black. All I can do is wonder what Kara has done to the world when suddenly they speak again, wondering how now I want wanted to go back to that world after destroying everything. Next, they even accuse me of thinking I'm above consequences, and I have to make another decision, either admitting or denying it. I say yes, and Kara suggests a compromise. After all, there's something they want, and in return, they'd bring this world back. Left with no other choice, I agree to give them what they want, but now Kara reveals that they want my soul. I agree to offer up my soul, which kicks me out of the world again and allows me to start fresh. So in my new world, I go through the trouble of destroying everyone again, but this time Clover's prepared and shoots me before I can unalive him. Did you really think I'd fall for that again? And just like that, they pulverize me to end my evil killing spree and erase the empty world I left behind.